Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends, an authentic podcast where we sit and discuss all things spiritual. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. This is Christy Godwin, and I am a certified psychic medium. I'm here with Kayla Miller. She runs her own beautiful business, and it resonates in the name of Living from the Heart Center. Thank you so much for being here, Kayla.
Thank you for having me again, Christy. I'm so happy to be back.
I think have Kayla on here once a month or so. I mean, I seem to have her. And I think the reason that Kayla and I just resonate so well together, our energies mesh. And we have joked that a lot of times when we are just talking, our energies, while we're talking to each other, we'll have to ground, because when you get two people together whose energy is spiraling, and then you get them together even via Zoom, their energies start spiraling. You're like, oh yeah, getting lightheaded, gotta ground.
Yes, that's happened a few times to us as we've been talking.
It has. I love it. And we are here today to talk about the Akashic records. Now, Kayla and I are going to be from beginning to end and all over the place, but just know that you cannot cover everything about the Akashic records in one podcast. You could do a series for the entire year, and I think not cover everything. So Kayla and I became certified for someone named Linda Howe. And have you been working a lot with that lately, Kayla, since the certification?
I have. And I think the biggest thing about the journey with the Akashic records is also working in your own records and just diving deep and discovering things about yourself that also you never thought you would uncover. So also working with other people. But I think one of the best journeys that you can take for yourself is just diving deep into your own records as well.
Absolutely. Now, when she says that, I have a book here, and it's a little notebook, and it has Akashic records on it. This is me. This is my Akashic records book where I dive deep into it. And I was looking at some things I had uncovered before and kind of forgotten. That's the reason it's important to write them down. And so some things, we'll see. I have some things that came up that are supposed to be coming to fruition in August. I had forgotten about them, so we'll see. I am going to real quick read Linda Howe's definition of the Kashic records, and then we're going to delve away from Linda for a few minutes and talk about some other things. But I love Linda's definition of it. It is: the Akashic records are a dimension of consciousness that contains a vibrational record of every soul and its journey. This vibrational body of consciousness exists everywhere in its entirety and is completely available at all times and all places. I have not found a better definition, so I wanted to.
Yes, she's so great with describing the records in general and bringing such a depth of knowledge to a forefront in such a way that you can understand it, even though it's packed with so much information.
Absolutely. I do want to show, this is the book that I read it several times before I took the certification class. But now we're going to get away from Linda Howe for just a moment. We're going to come back to her and our certifications. But the Akashic Records is also known as the Book of Life.
Yes.
In the U.S. culture, but in other cultures, it has been known as other things. I do want to also mention that the term Akashic Records was coined by Alfred Percy Sennett in 1883, and he wrote a book called Esoteric Buddhism, where he talked about Eastern philosophy and how there's a universal record that exists across all time and space. So that was.
Did you know the actual term where Akasha comes from? It's a Sanskrit term. And it means primary substance, all that which things come from. So I think it's just so many people have tapped into that knowledge and have discovered it and termed it in their own way.
Yeah, this is what I love about Kayla. That was next on my notes. But for those watching, Kayla's been here several times. We plan a little bit, but it's like 10 minutes before I start the recording that we plan. And I'm sorry, I had a pop-up. For those watching, y'all saw me look down. I had a pop-up on my computer. Always about technology, what's going to go wrong. I love technology when it works, but when it doesn't, woo. And I do, Kayla's absolutely right. It's a Sanskrit word. And also references to the Akashic records can be found thousands of years prior.
Mhm.
It's just not called the Akashic records, but references are made to it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. You can't see it, touch it, feel it.
Mm-mm.
Which I know is so difficult for some people to wrap their brain around.
Mhm.
But I do want to quote someone, Nikola Tesla. Who's heard of him? I think everyone
Oh,
has.
yeah.
I just want to say a little quote from him. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries in existence.
Mm, that's a
So I
great
do
quote.
want people to kind of, and I'm not saying that you have to believe in the Akashic records. Kayla and I are just putting out the information. As with everything, take what resonates with you, leave the rest behind.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I do want to say, anytime you're taking a class from me or any class with anyone, take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. Now I do want to talk a little bit about a little bit of science here. There is a sense in our society that if you can't touch it and feel it, it does not exist. It's very much, especially I believe, and modern day, that's kind of the thought process we come from. But there have been studies done that have proven quantum physics and proven that there is quantum waves of energy. It's proven that everything in this universe is energy.
Mhm.
Everything, the computer, Kayla herself, me, auras around us, everything is energy.
Mhm.
And I teach in my psychic mediumship classes, when you're learning Akashic records, it's all about learning to read that energy.
Mhm.
So there is, but back in decades and decades, it was in the 1940s, I believe, Richard Feynman published The Strange Theory of Light Matter. And he proposed that electrons in our brains can be activated by quantum waves.
Mm.
Talking about same thing, Albert Einstein and quantum physics. It all resonates in the same science.
Mhm.
There was another gentleman, his name was Irvin Laszlo, and he was a doctor. He was a Nobel Prize nominee. He didn't win, but he was a nominee. And he talks also about how optimal energy exists in the quantum field, and it contains intellectual information. And it's all about, now he's not the only scientist that believes in
Mhm.
this. Other scientists believe in it also. They have basically deferred, yes, a quantum field exists. Yes, there is intellectual information in these quantum waves. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the scientific side. Now Kayla and I are going to talk about what how do you read that?
Mm. Yes.
How do you read that energy? Who is it accessible to? Do you want to speak on that, Kayla? Who is the quantum field accessible to?
Honestly, anybody can access the quantum field. It's
Yes,
all about being able to shift your consciousness and be aware of the energy that you sit in.
absolutely. It's like speaking another language.
Mhm. It truly is.
And it's just about learning what the different things you get from the quantum field means.
Mhm.
I talk about this a lot when I teach my psychic mediumship classes, that it's because it's each individual person. So
Mhm.
what accessing the Akashic record feels like to me is going to be different than what it feels like to Kayla.
Mhm.
It
And
doesn't
some
mean you would.
people, right, and some people will receive their messages completely different than other people. I
Absolutely.
know that some people just hear it, some people just know, and other people sense it or just see it in their third eye. It depends on how you receive your information.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, yes, Kayla and I are certified by Linda Howe, but that's not the end all to be all to accessing
Mhm.
the Akashic records. I did not even realize Kayla was taking the class I had read the book, and because also I'm a college instructor by trade, I am all about certifications and learning and making sure I do it right to begin with. And I don't like to fumble my way through things. I want step one, step two, step three, which Linda very much gives you. And I was
Absolutely.
talking to Kayla about something else, and she mentioned taking this class. I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, me too.
Yeah, actually, I think it was when I mentioned that I had previously been certified in that soul realignment course that I had mentioned. And you do a lot of work in the Akashic records, and you actually dive deep into being a star seed and where your soul originates and so on and so forth. But how the class was structured didn't completely resonate with me on a very deep level. So I felt that there was something else out there. And then I came across the book How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe. And then I decided to take the course. And it has such a very sacred way of going about things, especially with the pathway prayer, which we mentioned. And it's treated with so much respect and honored. And that's what really truly resonated with me when I took Linda's course.
I love Kayla just spoke about her journey a little bit. And when you take this, people come up on this in many different ways. Like Kayla
Mm,
came up on it through a soul realignment course that she takes, which is a way of really healing your energy,
mhm,
clearing your chakras and realigning them, and kind of bringing you back to a heart center. And I came across it in a much different way. It was a couple of years ago, actually, and I had read the book. And yes, it resonated with me, but I was on a different journey at that time. I was doing some other things, learning some other information. You can't learn everything at once. And so I read the book that time. About a year later, I read the book again. And at this point, I was opening my records for myself.
mm,
And then all of a sudden, I just got this strong urge to take the class.
mm.
And so now that's where Kayla and I kind of came together, and she offers it on her website.
Do-
Living from the Heart Center. I always also offer it on mine. And Linda does do a beautiful job of making it sacred.
mm. Yes, I
And
truly admire that about her.
yes, and I do think that you should enter any kind of thing in the energetic realm from kind of a sacred viewpoint.
Mhm.
My opinion only. Again, take what resonates with you, what doesn't. Now, Linda comes, I have her, uh, it's a pathway. So just so y'all know, it's a pathway prayer that Linda Howe uses to access the records.
Mhm.
I do not think that is the only way, but I enjoy it because to me, it's like muscle memory. The more you practice anything in the energetic realm, the more easily it comes to you. And I see
Mhm.
this a lot when I'm teaching people meditation, when I'm teaching them to psychic mediumship. It's all about creating a ritual that puts you in that mindset and that energetic vibration.
Agreed.
So Linda's prayer does that for me, and I enjoy it. And it covers all the points that I think are important.
Mhm.
Now, what are some things that have come to light for you when you've read the Akashic records?
For myself,
Yeah,
wow.
for your own personal. We won't be speaking about our clients here. We'll keep your information very personal.
For myself, the biggest thing is giving myself space to honor my self care, honor my journey, and giving myself space to continue my healing path as well. Because there are times as working as a healer that I get so caught up in helping everybody else that I sometimes put myself on the back burner. So the Akashic records and the master teachers and loved ones that work with me and the records always remind me about self-care for myself. Now I've been able to dive a little deep about, past lifetimes and different times that I've worked in the records through different lifetimes. I did mention that I worked in the records as a Palladian. I've worked in the records as a man. This was back in like Before time of Christ. This is about, I want to say it was 1600 BC, and I was a man in a temple in Rome that worked in the records. So I mean, I've dived deep on personal aspects, especially aspects for like my family and how I can better heal, the relationships, or maybe have a different mindset of where they're coming from and how I can meet them halfway where they're at. So there's so many different aspects that the records are willing to give you. But the thing is about working in the records is that they are only going to give you what you need to hear in that moment. There will be times that you will access it maybe a day later, a week later, and it's going to give you completely different information than what you had received the time prior before. So the records will give you what you need to hear in that moment. I know some people go into it wanting to hear about all of their past lifetimes, but the thing is that we've come in this lifetime, reincarnated into this lifetime for specific reasons, for specific lessons that we're to learn. And the records have a way of almost checking us and being like, okay, we're getting off topic here.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Now, the Akashic records are not a playing field, which is what Kayla was talking about. They're not, you don't just open them and mosey your way through, and they're not just a playing field. Now, do I have people that want to know about past lives? Absolutely. And they come to me, they book a past life regression, and then we pull them up that way. Now, can you access past lives through Akashic records? Absolutely. But those are going to the past lives that are revealed in the Akashic records are more related to what is important to you right now.
Agreed. Now, what are some things that you've learned from diving into your Akashic records?
That I am a much older soul than I ever thought.
Yes.
I have always, there has been very few lifetimes that I have not had a spiritual component to my life.
I've noticed that as well. So that's interesting.
Yes. I have lived as in Egyptian times, working in a temple. I have lived in Ireland, working as I was a druid, and I have even lived other times here in the United States where my ability to work with herbs and potions was not really
accepted. Yeah, unfortunately. It seems to be a pattern. I've noticed that in my lifetimes that it's either, I embrace my abilities, or I feel that there's been times where I try to suppress them because they're not accepted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, in this lifetime, I came upon and became a medium and really walked to my spirituality a lot later. And yes, I know, I firmly believe everything happens for a reason. And I knew that. But I am also someone who will beat myself up. That's like my thing. And it was funny. I've always known that about myself when I did my soul plan, when I first learned the soul plan that I do, which we're not talking about today. But one of my challenges, we all come to this earth with challenges. Yes. One of my challenges is living in the past and not letting go, which made sense because I can beat myself over for something I did 20 years ago, it just popped into my head. And one of those was, I feel like I came into my spirituality so late. But when I asked the Akashic records and really asked why that was, why am I coming up on this so late in life? It was because I was really meant to be a wife and mother and focus on that. And yes, I will always be a wife and mother, but now my children do not need me as much as they used to. They're now adults and starting their own careers and lives. And so it's giving me a little bit more freedom to run hard with this.
Truly happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
It does, which is a whole nother podcast, because I know that a lot of people, which I agree, sometimes I will have a discussion with my higher self when I get back to heaven, like, what was I thinking? I remember the other day I was doing a soul plan on someone, and they had some pretty heavy challenges in there. And so I was teasing them saying, oh, when you made your plan for this lifetime, you were really like, hold my beer, watch.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of creating, I know this is a tad off topic, but creating your soul plans, I don't know if, I can't remember if you've talked about this recently, but I am reading this book that is called Between Death and Life. And it is so amazing, so educational. It's just full of so much information. It's by Dolores Cannon. And it talks about that constantly, about how people are, how they go to a school on the other side, and how they learn how to make a contract for a new lifetime that they're going to reincarnate in. It's definitely a great read. I recommend it.
Yes, Dolores Cannon. She's she's no longer with us on this earth plane. She has transitioned, but one of the favorite books I have of her is the 3 Waves of Volunteers, or the New Waves of Volunteers. And in that book, she actually talks about someone waiting to incarnate because they needed a certain astrological alignment, and they were choosing a certain family because they needed a certain vibration to their name, which much aligns with the soul plans I do, which I know is a whole nother thing, but Dolores Cannon is just phenomenal. And when you start reading and really delving into all these different, Dolores Cannon mentions it because these people wanted to incarnate with a certain astrological alignment, astrology. They needed a certain name vibration. The soul plans I do are really on the vibration of your name. And then also all that information is being recorded in the Akashic records. And when you make your soul plan, when you come here, you don't do it by yourself. You have a whole planning team with you.
Yes, you do.
And once you get here, you kind of lose that connection some. And we're here to help you. We're here to help you realize that connection. And by reading the Akashic records, it can be a reminder why you're on this earth this time. What are you here to accomplish? Sometimes we can feel so lost, disconnected. But by accessing your Akashic records, whether you do it on your own, you can absolutely YouTube it, you can absolutely read the book and access your own records. Or you can come to someone and make it like me and Kayla and make an appointment and have us help you through that journey. Now, I will say a lot of people, one of the most popular questions I get asked about the Akashic records is, what are good questions to ask?
Yes. I'm really glad that we're going to talk about this, because having questions ready going into a session is very important. This is all about very deep soul level work that we're going to be doing. So having an intention, say you have a relationship between you and your mother, and you want to work through it. You want to have some light shed on it as to what it is that this lesson is to bring to you, what wisdom you're gaining from this. And, asking questions, I believe it's like what, how, and why. It's best to stay away from questions that are yes or no questions, or questions that start with when.
Yes. I have a very good friend several good friends that are looking for loved ones to share their life with, looking for their partner. And a couple of times they've asked me when, and it's not usually a time frame. It's usually when you are comfortable in your own skin, when you have stepped into your own truth, so the Akashic Records works much in that way. It doesn't usually work, and on June 17th of 2022, this is going to happen. It's more of when you have accomplished these things. Now, well, sometimes I see seasons or a generality of time frames. Yes. But just like everything else, the Akashic Records accommodates free will.
Absolutely.
So you have to row the boat. Just like when you come to me for a psychic read, if I tell you something's going to happen and you stop rowing the boat, you're stopping the energy. The Akashic Records is much the same way whenever you're looking at That's the reason it doesn't give you really a time frame, a definite date. Because if you stop rowing the boat, you're stopping the energy from flowing.
Absolutely. I've noticed that the master's teachers and loved ones that work within the records with me, they like to provide information on what is your highest good to achieve from this outcome. And if you continue on this process, so they might even give you some suggestions on how you can heal or how you can learn to forgive in a specific person or even yourself if needed to move on and release blocks. And then if you do that, they sometimes do provide future outcomes if you continue on that path of healing. But nothing is set in stone, just like Christy had said, nothing is set in stone. There's so many different timelines that can shift just by one decision.
Absolutely. And I also want to touch, I know Kayla touched on it earlier, and I want to delve back into it, if you don't mind a little bit, Kayla,
Sure.
about how you get, because now we're talking about if you access your own records, how do you get the information? How do you perceive the information? And I know I keep referencing Venus psychic medium, but it's kind of the same in that, it's given to you in many different ways, as messages from spirit is given to me in many different ways. Linda, I know, really focuses on in her classes about how very few people see clairvoyantly, because when you see, if you are someone who gets clear sight, clairvoyance, it's not like seeing the pictures on the wall or a 3D human.
No,
it's more of in your mind's eye. Now, when you go to the records, Kayla, do you ever see things?
I do, actually.
I do.
Have you, I'm just curious, have you actually ever seen any of the guardians or master teacher loved ones, like the silhouette or any of that?
I have.
I have as well. So I was just curious if you had.
But I do want people to understand that though Kayla and I have done that, we have also worked with our spiritual ability a lot. And the more you work with your clairs and the more you work on building them, it's just, like I said, muscle memory. So if you don't see something, it doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up over that.
No. Also, sometimes it's just claircognizance, clear knowing. And I always talk about when I'm teaching my classes, that's the hardest one to work with because you just know something.
And you don't know how to explain it. Yes.
Right. I just know.
But it's trusting what you receive.
Exactly. And I do want to tell you, everyone that's listening to this, anytime you're accessing the other realms, higher vibrations, nothing ever comes through that is not for your highest good. It only comes through in a love vibration. Will it come through with correcting that you can do to correct your life? Absolutely. Information, though, coming from these higher realms will never, ever, ever tell you to hurt yourself or someone else.
Absolutely not.
They will never come through in a judgmental tone.
No. I know that you work with angels quite a bit, Christy. So the masters, teachers, and loved ones, actually, how they deliver their messages remind me a lot of angels and how they have a very loving vibration. And you can tell that they really mean this with love, but sometimes they have a way of being somewhat blunt about things, especially if you've been dragging your feet in things in a certain situation. But as she said, they will never encourage any kind of self-harm or any negative influence for you. It's all about love.
I love that, Kayla, because as she was saying that, I can feel the angelic realm, and it's like, yeah, that's the way they come through in a very unconditional love vibration, but very correcting. And it's so hard to explain how this information feels when it can be very correcting, but not judgmental. Because I know a lot of times on this earth realm, whenever we're told correcting advice or correcting measures by other people, sometimes we can get defensive because it feels like it's judgmental. Never from the records.
No, absolutely
never
not.
From the angelic realm. Even when I have past loved ones step up with correcting him, never does it feel judgmental.
It's purely just informational and trying to spread knowledge and wisdom. Absolutely. And help people in their highest good.
Yes. Yes. So much about your highest good. And so now we talked about clairvoyance, we talked about clear cognizance. Sometimes you can hear the
Yes.
information being dropped in your head. I was actually sitting in meditation this morning, and I was not accessing the records, but I was accessing my guides. And one of them stepped forward, and I was like, "Oh my!" Because it was my guide, much like Kayla. We all have different guides, and the one who was
Yes.
stepping forward is the one who is like, "Christy, I love you
Oh,
and
yes.
all. Stop dragging your feet. This is what you need to do." And so I could very clearly hear that information being dropped to my head, and the records are much the same.
Hmm.
The biggest thing is to trust.
Absolutely.
Trust. It's there.
Hmm. And honestly, when it comes to using your abilities in general, it's all about trust.
Yes.
This entire process is just trusting that what you receive truly is, from source, from the records, from the angels, whoever you work with, but trusting what you receive is for your highest good. And it truly is a message that you're meant to either use for yourself or share with others.
Yes. Yes. And I want to reiterate that whenever you're taking any kind of class, because I know along this path, Kayla and I had talked to, we're kind of taking this Linda Howe class, not at the same time, but like together, but separately,
Hmm.
simultaneously, if that makes sense to everyone. And there are certain things, no matter what class you're taking or who it's with, take what resonates with you.
Absolutely.
I love that Miss Linda Howe does it in such a sacred way.
Hmm.
But once you start accessing the records, and there's not a but, it's just, however, once you start accessing the records, just know that Linda Howe teaches you a way to get into it, as many other people do. Now, once you get into the records, you can take them as far as you want.
Hmm. Hmm.
The more you access them, the more information you're going to get.
Absolutely. And it's important not to put limitations on yourself when you access the records and feel that you can only access maybe a certain lifetime or certain lessons that you're supposed to learn. Don't put those limitations on yourself. Just have faith that whatever is meant to be heard in that moment will come through.
I had accessed my records the other day, and this earth realm can be prevalent with a bit of judgment for
Yes.
anyone who is not aware. I think everyone is. So I had maybe encountered a bit of that, and just feeling a little bit of frustration in it. And I accessed the records, and I started being taken to a lifetime that I found a little bit shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself instantly kind of like second guessing it. Before I let the entire story play out and get all the information, I started second guessing as I'm being taken into this information and this other lifetime that was relevant to this lifetime. I found myself second guessing it, and I could feel myself energetically pulling back from it. And so I was like, oh yeah, no, go with it, see where it goes. I went with it, and it was very relevant to this lifetime, and it was very much about standing in my truth and not marching to the beat of society's drum, and making sure that I am worried about myself and vibrating in and putting out my own conditional love vibration.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Oh,
when
I
I put
feel that.
and as I'm putting out my own conditional love vibration, people are going to receive that differently. If they are not ready to receive how I put out my unconditional love vibration, they're going to get pushback and judge it.
And it somewhat triggers them, essentially.
Yes. But I did absolutely, when I first hit where the Akashic Records was taking me to a lifetime that was relevant, I started like, what? No, I was never there. And I could feel energetically, I started backing up, and I could feel myself almost being pushed back into it to go with the flow. Don't judge the information you're getting. Process it and see if it resonates with you.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure if you wanted to touch on this today, but I would like to talk about the masters, teachers, and loved ones and the guardians of the Akashic records, because there are specific energetic beings that you will encounter and work with when you are in the records. The guardians are the ones that essentially are governed for the Akashic records to be protected, essentially for any non-physical light beings. They also have a way of kind of allowing what information can be released to the master teachers and loved ones that you work with. And the master teachers and loved ones are kind of like your middleman, and they help guide you through the information and help relay it to you. And everybody has their own specific master teachers and loved ones.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
the group of master teachers and loved ones for myself are different than what Christy has, and then vice versa when it comes to working with a client.
When I was learning that part of it, it reminded me when I was working on my master's degree. I'm old, and you would go to the library and there was a card catalog. I don't know if everyone remembers that card catalog where, so, sometimes you can feel a little bit overwhelmed walking into this big library. I had very specific needs for my master's thesis. I very much appreciated when the people that worked at the library came over and directed me to where I need to go. I would follow them around like a lost puppy. Yes, take me to this section. And so I very much feel that's what our helpers are in the Akashic records. They direct us. Because you can't walk into a library. You think of your own physical library, no matter how small it is, you cannot walk into the library and just automatically know exactly where you need to go. And you can't read all the information at one time.
Exactly. And I will say that the master teachers and loved ones have all had at least one lifetime as a human being. Absolutely. So they're able to relate to you on that level. Now, I can't say the same thing for the guardians. I believe that they're just light beings, and I'm not sure if they have been incarnated as a human, but I know for a fact that the master teachers and loved ones have. So there's a certain level that they can meet you at.
Absolutely, they can. And I always, the vibration that comes from the other realms, and I also say this with past loved ones, angels, the guardians, master teachers, and loved ones, you lose, once you cross over to the other dimension, you kind of lose all the negativity.
Right.
And so they don't ever feel sad for us because they understand that what we're here with, that we have lessons to learn. But it's kind of like the school marm that's like, this is a tough lesson for you. Come here, let me show you the information that you need to get through this time in your life.
Yes.
And then they divulge the information. And once you get that information, it's up to you, free will, to use it to your best ability. I also do life coaching, and no one can make you do anything.
All free will.
All free will. So they will give you all the information you need to make choices that can be helpful. But it's up to you. And I laugh all the time and joke that, I'll be given information that's like, oh yeah, that's nice. I'll just ignore that for a little while. Because, maybe it's just not something I want to do right now, or it's stepping into fear.
Yes.
Kind of stepping out of my comfort zone. But I've gotten better. The more you access the records, the more you get information and realize, you know what, if I just follow some of this advice.
And once again, this always comes down to being empowered. The information that you receive in the records, or even if you just work with either Christy or I, it's all about us trying to empower you and to give you the tools needed for you to have or live within the highest timeline for yourself, and truly authentically stepping into yourself as an individual, opening yourself up to projecting unconditional love and continue on your healing process. So at the end of this, it's all about empowerment.
Yes.
I don't know how much I can stress that. Empowerment. That's all that we are trying to do.
And I do want to talk a little bit about Kayla, that I've known her for a long time. And I think we started out taking some classes together.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Yes. And we connected that way, remained friends. And I have never seen Kayla work in any other way but understanding and unconditional love. You could tell this girl anything and she would not judge you. She would just process the information and think about, okay, how can we best help you through this? And I know sometimes, like when you see people like Kayla, is for those of you listening to the podcast, if you're watching me on YouTube, you know, she's a beautiful young lady.
Oh, thank you.
If you are listening to the podcast, she is just beautiful. And you would think, looking at her, oh my goodness, you know, she's young, she's beautiful, she's so wise, and she's so empowering, and she just has such a beautiful, beautiful energy about her. So just know that if you go to Kayla for an appointment, you can tell her anything. Your secret will be safe with her. She will never judge you. She's all about, okay, I see that happened. How can we help you out of it? Because we cannot change our past. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
Ruminating on our past, being bitter about our past, being angry about our past is never going to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, our only choice is to walk forward.
Exactly.
That's the only choice.
Exactly.
And
Thank you so much for saying that, Christy. That was very nice of you.
It was the truth. It was the complete, honest truth. So y'all will, I have to get to know people pretty well before I start tooting their horn and really start saying, yes, go to this person. Yes, they can help you. Yes, they work in a true unconditional love vibration, because I take my place on this earth very seriously. And I don't want anyone, I want everyone to be powered. I want anyone to have to take a step back.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
And trust me, if I felt like that ruminating on our past could change it, I absolutely would do that.
Mm-hmm. And something that I've learned on my path, and I've been reading all kinds of books that help people let go of the past and the energy that you essentially give away to the past is also being in the present. And I know that it's something very difficult to do, especially when you start meditating on it. And next thing you know, your mind's wandering to all these things that happened in the past, or you're planning for the future. But when you start to live in the present, you start to call your energy back to you. And in return, you create so much energy for the unknown of so many possibilities that can come to you, whether it's manifestations that you've been trying to bring into your life. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Christy had said about not living in the past, because it's very important to try to let go of that. Your past doesn't define you in this moment right now. Right. And living that and fully embracing that is very important.
And that is where lots of modalities come into play. The Akashic records come into play in that, because, okay, I have faced some of my triggers. I have tried to heal some of my wounds. What can I learn to help me move forward? I'm feeling stuck. I feel like that I have tried to heal this trigger 15,000 times and it keeps rearing its ugly head. How can I move forward? That's where the Akashic records come in. You enter it with reference and see what kind of information it can get you. Again, it's up to us to take that information and empower it and move forward with it.
Absolutely.
So Kayla, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
As always, I encourage everyone to give yourself grace on your journey. I know sometimes we can be our own worst critic when it comes to how we're living our life, but you are exactly where you need to be in this moment, and honor that. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yes, I concur. You are exactly where you need to be. You have a perfect place on this earth, and you were absolutely put here for a reason. We all go through times where we're feeling lost, we're feeling like we don't belong, and we're feeling disconnected.
Mm.
You were not meant to feel that way. And whether you come to Kayla or I, or you read the book yourself, go with someone else's way of accessing the Akashic records, is just another tool in your toolbox to be able to move forward, to step more into your soul's purpose and your soul's plan. And of course, Kayla and I would always be happy to help you with that. You can reach Kayla. Her business is she has a website.
I do.
It is Living from the Heart Center. And what is your
Yes.
email, Kayla?
It's also livingfromtheheartcenter@gmail.com. And you can also find me on TikTok and Instagram with the handle Living from the Heart Center.
Very good. She has some great TikToks. I suggest you follow her. Again, my name is Christy Godwin. You can find me on all the social media platforms, Christy Godwin Psychic Medium. And if you have any questions or concerns or topics you would like to see covered in this podcast, please email me, christygodwin111@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Hope everyone has a wonderfully blessed day.